Welcome to the Hot Flashing podcast. Welcome back, I should say.
Thank you. It's so nice to see you. You look so beautiful, and it's so nice to see your beautiful face.
Thank you. She was telling me she liked my hair earlier, and I was loving it. Congratulations on your book. It's coming out May 5th, Nourishing Menopause, Powerful Nutrition and Lifestyle Strategies to Feel Your Best.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for everything you did to help me with my book. And, you were so amazing when I was writing it. And thank you for your amazing endorsement. Thank you so much.
I read this book. I read the whole book, and I honestly think it is the best book I've read on this transition. And I'm not saying that lightly. I have read quite a few books, but the frustration always is, I think our general frustration about this conversation is that they're coming at it from certain ways. And so things get left out. And somehow you have managed to you've managed to bridge the gap. Like, you've just managed to do that. And I'm really, really impressed.
When I read your endorsement, I think I told you this, I literally was in tears. Like, in tears, because when you write something and you give it your all, like I keep saying, like, this book is my legacy. Like, it's something that I want to leave for women. And when I read and I had, 20 endorsements for the book. But when I read yours, Emery, I literally was in tears. Like, it was just something that you said and that you wrote. I was just like, I nailed it. I nailed it, because your opinion meant so much to me, because you've read so many books. And anyways, I was just very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah, there's a lot of books written, but there's not a lot of books that say a lot. And I don't know how that happens, but that's the way it is. Okay, so, you have lived and walked this. You were in perimenopause for 14 years without knowing it. You got pregnant twice during that time. That's crazy. I don't think I even knew that. Just walk me back to when you connected the dots that it was perimenopause.
Yeah, I got pregnant, was 39. I lost baby right before my 40th birthday. And then I got pregnant again with my little one, who's now 15. And I didn't know that I was in perimenopause both times. Like, I had zero idea. And the time that I actually connected the dots was when I was writing the book. Because I went back to my doctor, I was asked to see my files. And then I was like, but wait a minute. Okay, I had a baby a little bit older. And, I was in perimenopause. Now I realized I started at like 35 or 36. So I started in my mid-30s, and I was in it, like you said, for a total of 14 years, but 11 of them I didn't know. And in those 11 years, I got pregnant twice. So it's one of those things that when I actually connected the dots, I was like, oh, I wonder how I would have done things possibly differently had I known that I was in perimenopause. And, and with my third, I had her when I was 41. It was the toughest pregnancy, in the sense of, like, I was on bed rest. I had a subchorionic hematoma. Like, I had things that I didn't have with my other two when I was pregnant in my 30s. And so I kind of wonder, is it compounded by the fact that, yes, I was older, but also that I was in perimenopause?
And that leads me to want to ask you, and I can't remember if you addressed this in the book or not, I'm sorry, but about the difficult pregnancy and the impact on perimenopause, because it's definitely something that your doctor needs to know about if you had a difficult pregnancy. Now, you had a difficult pregnancy in perimenopause, but what do you know about that?
I don't really know too much about it. Actually, interestingly enough, I want to do a survey, so part of the research that we're doing, on women who have children 40 plus, because I think there is so much we can learn about it. And I've heard from so many women who've said, and I thought this was me too, and it was probably a part of it, is that they have their baby, they're older, they have their baby, and then right from there, after giving birth, they go into perimenopause, or they were already in perimenopause, and then the symptoms never go away from their postpartum, and then it goes from one thing to something else. So I want to study that a little bit more with the women in our community to understand, because I've heard it so many times now on social media, that I'd love to dig into, at least understand from the women's perspective, how it was for them when they were pregnant. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what I love about the book is that it manages to find a middle ground, like MDs, NDs, functional researchers. Like, most women don't even know that there is a middle ground. Like, most people, and I'm saying middle ground, but I also mean gap. Like, because I've been saying lately, it just depends who you end up in front of, how you are treated in perimenopause. So it's kind of a false choice. And I just kind of wondered, like, what you think about that, and how do you straddle that? How do you deal with that?
Well, it's how I live my life. I live my life I truly believe, I've been in health and wellness for 26 years. I believe there's a rule for conventional, and I believe there's a rule for holistic. in my day-to-day, I integrate both. So it was an easy thing. And funny enough, I have a friend who for years would always call me the bridge. So when you said that, when you asked me that question, I'm like, it's funny because it's kind of who I am. And I'm proud of it. So I love the fact that I was able to come and write this book from a perspective of being in natural health for so many years, and also looking at the research on hormones and looking at the research on medications. I mean, I don't talk about medications, I stay in my lane, but I do believe there's a place and a rule for everything. Whatever works for you and for the women who are listening, that's what you should be doing. And it's okay, by the way, to integrate both. And I believe integrating both is actually just more of a benefit for us.
Yeah. How do you think women should navigate that ecosystem though? Like when you just who do you go?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And kind of like what you said before is that maybe the treatment options that they're given are based on who they see. And I think the first thing they need to ask themselves are like, what route do I want to take? What am I open to? Like, I have friends that are not open to natural at all, and I have friends that are only open to natural and not the other route. So it's more like, what do you believe and what route do you want to start going down? The only thing I would say is, make sure that when you're looking at, we'll talk about the holistic route, make sure that you're looking things that have been proven, right? So for example, like if you have and this is something you talk about in my book, which I love, is if you have hot flashes or vasomotor symptoms, maybe look at something like hypnotherapy, right? There's now research on that. Or if you want to look at something like CBT or CBTI, right? So look at things that have a lot of proof behind it, research behind it. But also things like, for example, if you're open to like massage therapy, or you're open to different things like that possibly can help you. The only thing I would say is that you might go down a route where it can be very costly if you're trying a million different things, but then you're not actually getting the results you're looking for. So maybe speak to friends, speak to practitioners, get some information, and then obviously trial and error. But it just really depends on what you're looking for what are you looking for to get the help?
One thing that drives me nuts is just the blanket statement that you can see that supplements don't work. And I know like you have a company that sells supplements, but there's no evidence for them. And they're like, reading your book, you can tell there's a ton of evidence. So can you just speak to that a little bit, and where you find that evidence and why people say that?
Yeah. So that is not true. There is a lot of evidence behind ingredients in supplements. And actually, I just saw the M Factor 2 movie, Tamsin's movie, and the doctors, I was so happy because the doctors in the movie were saying how there is research behind certain supplements, and they're saying that if you hear that there isn't, it's not true. So I was like so happy to see that, because that's getting out in the mainstream. There is absolutely evidence on certain ingredients. Like look at something like vitamin D, look at fish oil or omega-3s, right? Like fiber. I mean, there's so much evidence, magnesium on certain ingredients. So I feel like whenever I hear somebody say, oh, there's no evidence or it's just BS, then right away that's a red flag for me. And I kind of just be like, all right, I'm going to go look for somebody that I trust, because I know the newest research. And I'm in the supplement space, like you said, so I'm privy to ingredients that have research on it. There's some great branded ingredients out there that have the clinical evidence, that have done the research to support their ingredients to help for whatever it is. So that's kind of old information. There's a lot of great information. Now, at the same time, you don't want to be taking everything and anything either, right? You want to be very discerning and very mindful about the supplements you're taking, especially now that you're in perimenopause and menopause. So you want to take things that are helpful specifically for women in this age group. And that's an important thing to think about, because I'll speak to women who will open up their cupboard and they have like a million different supplements. I'm like, why are you taking them? They're like, I don't know, someone told me to. I'm like, no, I want you to understand, why are you taking certain things? Be mindful about it, and then also very particular as to why you're taking it and what is it helping you with. Is it overall health and health span? Is it helping with a particular symptom that you're experiencing? So just being on top of why you're taking it and asking questions is important.
Okay. And you were the first person who pointed out the obvious to me, which is that a pill this big isn't going to be able to have 85 ingredients in it that do anything. And that's what so many of those supplements have. Not 85, I'm exaggerating, but way too many, right? Like
we call it the kitchen sink formulas. Now, there's some, like if you have it like in a powder, you can put a lot more in like a powder that's in a canister than you can in an actual supplement. And then some ingredients are bigger and fluffier than others, like magnesium is a bigger, fluffier molecule. So taking one capsule, you're probably not getting the recommended dose, right? So read the ingredients, read the instructions on the directions on the bottle, follow the directions, reach out to the companies, ask questions, be curious.
Okay. What really surprised you when you were doing this research?
What surprised me, gosh, there was In terms of, so everything that I wrote about in the book is backed by the research. Like we have, I think, over 1,500 different references. Like it was a very much about rooted in the science. And in terms of what surprised me, I think when I was writing, there was a chapter in my book called Unjunk Your Menopause. And actually it was one of my favorite chapters, but we ended up taking it out because it was 150 pages, just that chapter. So we ended up turning it into a course that we're going to launch in the fall. And what I realized is that we could find an argument for or against whatever it is we want to find that argument for. And I feel like whatever it is, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So artificial sweeteners, very controversial topic. Some people are like, nope, they're completely and totally safe. Others are like, they're not. Some people say they make you gain weight. Other people say they help you lose weight. Like there's some, whatever it is you want to believe, you're going to find the research to support it. And the same thing with seed oils. Seed oils is a huge controversial ingredient, and when I post about it on social media, I'll get hit by the people that are like, no, it doesn't cause inflammation, it's totally fine, you can eat them. And then I'll say, well, my experience, the way I feel when I eat them, they create inflammation in my body. They cause joint pain, like it doesn't work for me. So the important thing is, and in terms of understanding when you're reading the research, is that you're going to find the argument pro and for anything that you're looking for. So look to see who's funding the research, look to see, and also what is your experience with it? Just because it says something in the research doesn't mean that it's gospel. It just means that, you want to maybe look for more patterns, or maybe that even though it says something one way, but you're affected a different way, at the end of the day, that's the important thing. How does it make you feel? So I think I would say that's probably the most interesting thing that I came across in writing the book with all the research, is that you really can find something to support anything that you want to see that support for.
Is that not the truth? Yeah, I think there's a lot of people, just picking up on what you said, overriding how they feel. And we've been doing that for a long time. And by the time you get to perimenopause, you need to start paying attention to how you feel. Did you have that problem too?
It's not so much, no, because I think because it was my job, like for me, it was always about understanding how we feel. So, and I was doing, what I've been doing for 26 years was to try to help people understand how are you feeling. So it wasn't so much that I had it, but it definitely is something that I feel like we need to trust ourselves more. And I think that is the key for me. And especially now that our bodies are changing in perimenopause and menopause, the way we felt before is probably not the way you're going to feel now. I mean, how often do you hear, I want to just feel like my old self? So trust yourself, because you know your body best. You're the captain of your own ship. And nobody else is going to tell you how you're going to feel. So if something feels right, then it probably is. But if something doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't.
Okay. Okay. And you had 17 reasons why people gain weight in perimenopause? Like that cracks me right up, because what do you see online and social media all the time is like the one reason that you're gaining weight. So can you just give us a sense of what's going on there? Because the calories in, calories out thing persists. I just saw it the other day.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, I saw a trainer. It was a discussion. It's like, it's calories in, calories out. It's like, why am I hearing this? People who talk about perimenopause too. It was a platform that's very focused on perimenopause. I mean, for social media, they're trying to get the clicks, and they're trying to get the attention, which, they're hooked. So that's probably what they start out with, right? But when I was writing the book, so first of all, as a Gen Xer, and I know that you can relate to this, as a Gen Xer, growing up, when we looked at food, it was always about like, don't eat enough, like don't eat so many calories, don't eat fat, don't eat this. Like it was like always, there was so much around food and diet culture, and it literally, I get PTSD when I think about it, because of the amount of times that I was on a diet and trying to lose weight for right? Like I had to fit into that dress. All the time. That's all it was.
All the time. Yeah. So when I was writing the book, and it's chapter 5, when we talk about weight gain, I wanted to be very mindful about how to approach it, because of the fact that I have all of that anxiety around, weight and all of that. So I also wanted women to know, and because we hear about this all the time, I know from our research that even though weight gain isn't in the top 10 most common symptoms, we know that it's in the top 3 when it comes to quality of life. It is something that is very bothersome for us. It is something that affects us on a day-to-day, many of us on a day-to-day level. And so I wanted women to understand, number one, so much of it is not your fault. Like, I just don't want you to go there and think, because I thought it for so long, and that's why I wanted to include it. So when I didn't know that I was in perimenopause, for the 11 years, I would be very hard on myself, because I'm like, well, wait, I'm exercising the same, I'm eating the same, but I'm gaining so much weight. I'd go up, I'd go down, I'd go up, I'd go down. What am I doing wrong? Why am I, it's like I was self-blaming. And I'm like, ladies, I don't want you to blame yourself for anything, because there is so much more going on in our body. Some things we can control, absolutely. Some things that we can't. But at the end of the day, I want you to understand what's happening. And yeah, 17 different reasons. You don't hear that anywhere else. And I was very adamant, and it's probably more. But at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure that I explained it to women as to here's what's happening in your body. So there's hormones at play. There's exhaustion at play, which is the number one symptom. Sleep is at play. Stress, inflammation, nutrition, nutritional deficiencies. I mean, the list goes on. So I just want you to know, women, ladies, like for those of you who are listening, like it's not your fault, and there's other things going on, and there are things we can do to help. So that's the great thing about the book, is that I have 3 chapters on nutrition, what we could do. Here's what you can, and everything is intermingled too, by the way. So yeah, I've got 3 chapters on nutrition, but like sleep plays a role. Our nervous system plays a role. Exercise plays a role, right? So many different things play a role, but there is hope, and that you can do something about it. But I just want you to understand what's happening.
That's huge. That's just knowing that. Just knowing that it's such a opposite to what you hear, and the self-blame. That helps you be like, okay, well, if there's 17 different reasons, maybe just give it a little bit of time. I think that's really, really helpful. Okay, so the book is called Nourishing Menopause, and you expanded nourishing beyond food, but this is such a beautiful word. So how does it expand beyond food into the rest of your life?
You know, it's so funny you say that. When I was doing some research on the title, because I would ask some people, like when we were first thinking of what to call the book, and the one thing that came back over and over again, that when women heard the title, they're like, I feel like you're giving me a hug. Like, it's like, I love the title. It feels like you're just like embracing me. And I was like, I love that. You know, like that's exactly what I want women to feel when they're reading my book. So nourishing, yeah, as a nutritionist for more than 20 years, I want us to nourish our bodies with food and what we're putting in it. But I also want to nourish your mind, your body, your soul, like every part of you. And because we do need that hug as we go into perimenopause and menopause, right? We feel so like discombobulated, and so many things that are happening and going on. So I wanted you to feel that you are being nourished from all different aspects, and that I am supporting you and validating you the entire time that you are reading my book.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. It reminds me of Tracy Moore, who's a Canadian broadcaster. And she said, I think women just really want comfort. And I thought, wow, how different from what we're getting, which is a lot of like, you're not doing anything right and things are going wrong. That's how I feel the messaging is at me.
Yeah.
So if I feel like that, and I'm quite aware of what's coming at me, so that's just like such a calming balm. And when you think about the danger and the fear, like how do you deal with that when you see it? How do you see it play out, and how do you deal with it?
It's so frustrating, Emery. I mean, you and I have talked about this so much. There's so much information. We're like in the information overload, like part of our world. Like it's just with social media, like there's so many great things about social, and then so many other things that I'm just like, I shake my head. You know, it's been very interesting for me. How do I deal with it? I get very frustrated. And I feel a lot of the time that I wonder why people are saying certain things or doing certain things. So I've kind of learned to stay in my lane and to just do what I do, and to just being consistent with the messaging that I have, and trying not to let everything else really ruin my day or ruin things that are going on, right? So I try, it's a daily thing of like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, try to like cut out all the other noise around me, exactly, just like kind of do what I do. And then I also know from an energetic standpoint is the people that I'm going to reach are the people who want to hear what I have to say. And I think that's an important lesson for a lot of us who are in this space trying to help women, because that's really what we're trying to do, is to help women feel better. Okay.
And you said you can prove almost anything. You can make an argument about almost anything, but there is some misinformation that is floating around. So do you see misinformation, and what do you consider misinformation? Because sometimes I see people posting and talking about misinformation, and I don't think that's misinformation at all.
Yeah. Well, I think again, it's going to come from who's saying what, right? So again, always find the person that's your person that you believe. And by the way, it's not only one person. Get your information from several different people, right? And question people.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important thing. And I know that you have a term. What's your term that you call that when somebody just looks at one person as their source?
Dr. Menopause Guru.
Yeah. So I know you talk about that. And I love that message, because really, like, there isn't one person that's going to have all the answers to anything, right? Everyone is really good at what they're good at. And look, I'm not a doctor, I'm a nutritionist, I'm a researcher. So I'm going to I'm going to talk about what's in my lane. What do I do day in, day out to do what I do to help be of service to women? And I look at nutrition, I look at lifestyle, I look at supplements, I look at the research, I look at a data set of over 20,000 women who have filled out our surveys. These are the women that I'm looking at and analyzing on a daily basis, right? The data. So I feel like, so misinformation, like to your point, could be, it's a very like, how do you define it? But I think for me, because my lane is so much around symptoms and symptomatology, that I feel like when I see somebody on social media, or I see somebody say there's only 34 different symptoms, I would say that to me is probably the most frustrating thing. Number one, it's because my research shows that it's not true. Like, I'm published December 2024 in the journal Menopause. I actually have published research on there's over 103 plus.
Right. Sorry,
103 plus symptoms. That's okay. That there's 103 plus symptoms. So when I see somebody like, there was a post with Oprah and she was saying there's 34 symptoms. I'm like, no, there's not 34. That is such old data. And you know, for me, I'm like, there's so much newer data. Why are we still quoting old research when there's so much new research that's available? So I would say that's probably the most frustrating thing for me. And let me explain why. It's not the number of symptoms. It's what are the symptoms that women are experiencing? Because I also have research that was published in December of 2024 in the journal Menopause that shows that 40% of women are dismissed when they talk to their doctor or healthcare provider about how they're feeling. They're seeing their doctor anywhere from 2 to 5 plus times. So the amount of time, money, energy, health anxiety, relationship impacts. There's so much that's involved when women are trying to get answers and treatment. So when we say that there's only 34 and they're looking at a list of old data, when, by the way, those itchy ears or phantom smells, which took me, you know, so many doctors, MRIs, testing, like, to find out that in the end, thank God, nothing was wrong. It was literally just, we now know it was a perimenopause symptom, had on the first or second time I went, as opposed to the seventh, you know, I'm kind of like exaggerating, but like we could have had those answers. I could have had those answers a lot earlier and saved myself a lot of time and headache and aggravation. So I want women to know what is the full list. And when you're going to your doctor or healthcare provider, show them, tick it off. Like we have a PDF, like you could tick off all the different things that you're experiencing. Get yourself checked out, make sure that you rule everything out, always rule everything out, get that clean bill of health. And then when it comes back saying, I don't know what's wrong, be like, hey, maybe it's a perimenopause or menopause symptom. And then you can look at treatments to help you for perimenopause and menopause specifically.
Yeah. Because let's not forget that while you're having the phantom smells or whatever else, you're thinking maybe I have a brain tumor, maybe I have this, maybe I have that. That's very wearing when you already aren't feeling well. I know I spent most of my 40s thinking I was dying of this, that, or the other thing. And so that's why it's really important. Okay, so you have done 7 studies on perimenopause now, and you've
7
published
abstracts. Yep, published in the journal Menopause, everything from symptoms. I'm actually submitting another 4 this year. So I'm
Can you tell us?
Yeah, well, I'm submitting it. I have to submit it by the end of May, I believe it is. So we're going to submit one. We have one on phantom smells that I'm submitting. I'm going to submit one on programs and policies, which is really interesting. And then another 2 more. I teamed up with Dr. Carrie Jones and Dr. Annika Becca. So we have one on pelvic health. And then I have another one, which is part 2 to healthcare insights. So who are the doctors and the healthcare practitioners that women are going to, and who is actually helping them? So I'm hoping that we will be published. And it's so interesting, the data. Oh my gosh. So, and then we're going to launch new surveys this year too. We're going to do one on ethnicity. I'm going to team up with another doctor. And then we have one. So like, I absolutely love our research because and it's so great to be teaming up with medical doctors and naturopaths on the research that we're doing, because they are like, I love what you're doing and I want to be a part of what you're doing, and getting this information out there and getting it, you know, written, getting it published in a medical journal, to me is so satisfying, because there isn't enough research. We need a lot more research on it. And I'm going to our community, to women, like I said earlier, we have over 20,000 women that have filled out our surveys. Right now we have 15 surveys on our website. So for those of you who are listening, please go fill it out. We want to hear your voices. Like, you are the ones that are helping with this data to shape the research that is happening, that is coming out. So it's very exciting.
That's what I love. It's like you're doing the research and then it's shaping the other research that you can do. And you're doing it so quickly compared to the way anyone else does research. So it just shows what women can do when they put their minds to something. Yeah, I think this is an important question about research and trusting research, because you're doing, you're objectively looking at these things and asking questions from women, but a lot of research isn't conducted in this way. And there's like, how do you trust research? How can you trust what you're seeing people talk about online, you're reading in articles? Like, do you have any sort of way that you do that?
I mean, we touched upon this a little bit earlier. I think it's just looking who's funding the research and just being curious, reading different things, looking for patterns. And again, like we said before, is you'll probably find whatever it is you're looking for. Like, so if you want to find your answer, you're going to find that answer with what you're doing. So I think that the more you read, the more you become discerning, and the more you're able to decipher certain things, you're going to be able to find things that support anything anyways, right? So I think that being curious, being open, asking questions is really important. And then finding out, again, listening to your body as to what makes you feel good. Like, just because the research says it doesn't mean that you should be ingesting it, because if you don't feel good, don't be ingesting that thing that they're saying is fine, right?
And you talk to so many women. Do you have any takeaway on how millennials are going through this versus Gen X?
That's a great question. I actually don't have research on it, but what I can say just from being on social media and speaking to a lot of women in our community is they're much more aware than Gen Xers were. We kind of went into it in the dark. Speak to any Gen Xer and they'll be like, I had no idea. Like, I have no idea. My mom never spoke to me about it. My doctor didn't bring it up. I didn't learn about it in school. Like, it was a whole different world, right? And that's why we were so taken by surprise, all of us. And that's why a lot of us in this space are Gen Xers, because we're like, we are not, the younger generation, we are not letting that happen to you, right? We're like, no way are you going to follow in our footsteps. The millennials and, the younger gen, even Gen Z, is like, I have kids, my kids are Gen Z, like, they know so much more than we did, because now the algorithm is sending things to them. Like my sister, who's 8.5 years younger than me, she's like, all I get is menopause stuff. And I'm like, yep. So they're so much more aware, thankfully, much more aware than we were, and that they won't go into it the same way. And then hopefully they will get the help earlier than we did.
Yeah.
We suffered, right? Like, we didn't get the help we needed when we could have. And now perimenopause is when a lot of that treatment can start, so that you don't have to experience the craziness that we went through and the debilitating symptoms that we had. You can start so much earlier so you could feel better. So I would say that's a very positive between the younger generation. And my kids, like, I laugh, like I have a 15, a 21, and a 22-year-old, and they're like so menopause savvy, like to the point where, like, if I say something, they're like, wait, how could that be? You're in menopause. Like, you shouldn't be if I'm like cold or whatever. They're like, how are you cold? You should, they joke around, right? But like, they're so much more savvy. They will know so much more because we're talking to them about it and they're learning it from our generation, which I love.
I love that our generation did that too. Well, thank you so much. Congrats on the book. Always love talking to you, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yes, please come visit. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks.